So that's all I have about Gareth Bale and Tottenham. So let's move on to our final segment, the question and answer segment. Now, I want to preface this by saying if you have any questions at all about sports, please drop a comment down below. I'd really appreciate seeing any comments, asking questions, and I promise to answer them, if not in the comments, then on a video podcast, another future episode of the show, just like this. So for this one, I actually had one comment that asked a lot of questions from the great man himself, Hunter, my own brother, who asked this question, or these series of questions. After the NFL games this weekend, please let us know your power rankings. Also, what is your early Super Bowl prediction for this year? Do the injuries on the 49ers team hold them back from making the playoffs this year? I want to thank Hunter for his great questions, and I'm actually going to answer all of them right here, right now. I was debating what exactly I wanted to do with the power rankings, but I'm going to do an Elite 8 teams, right? So I'm going to give you my top 8 teams in the league, number 8 to number 1. I'm going to give you some short explanations on why I think they're the top 8 teams in the league, and then we'll move on to the next few questions, right? Number 8, I have the Cardinals. They've looked super good, but may not be dynamic enough to be the best team in their conference. They have some tough competition in the NFC West, and they're going to have to prove a little more. So with that, they're facing off against teams like the 49ers and the Seahawks and the Rams. That's a tough division to be in football. Those are 4 really good teams in the NFC, and I could see all of them making the playoffs. I know that's ridiculous, but, one team's going to have to take the fall. This year it looks like it may be the 49ers, but, maybe the Cardinals start to lose some steam. But for now, I think they're, a top 8 team in the league, and I think we have to give them their props. They're 2-0. Speaking of another 2-0 team with a rising quarterback who I have to give their props to, the Buffalo Bills with a similar story, right? I love the coach in McDermott, I love Josh Allen. He's had some of his best games of his career just now in these first few games of this season. The defense looks great, They should be vying to win the AFC East. Their only competition really looks like it is going to be the New England Patriots, surprised with Cam Newton. But I think that they may have the talent to overcome that Patriots team and go 10-6, 12-4. I think this is a really good Bills team. And the real question for them is, can the run by Allen be sustained? Can he have an MVP-type season? Nobody really looked at Josh Allen other than Bills fans, over his rookie season and his second season in the league, and really said, that's the guy. He's going to be an MVP-type guy for the Buffalo Bills. I don't think many people said that, especially not this early. At number 6, I have the Los Angeles Rams. They're undefeated right now. It seems like they made the right move in getting rid of Gurley. They've had guys like Akers at running back stepping up, and they still have so much talent, right? I think of all the talent that they have on this team, and with Jalen Ramsey, it's a good team, right? This is a really good team, just everywhere, kind of. They don't have too many holes. And it seems like, Goff has been better this season. He had a down season last season, and he didn't really look like that guy. He was kind of reverting, regressing a little bit. But he's been great, and he has a great receiving core to throw to. He has guys that he can trust all across the field. So, great start for the Rams, and I expect great things out of them. Another AFC East team, the New England Patriots. It may be a high ranking for a 1-1 team, but I really do believe in Cam Newton and Bill Belichick. Their offense has looked fluid and consistent. Cam Newton, he's been great on both sides. He's the true meaning of the word dual threat. And they're maximizing the talent of their young guys. Their young receivers, their young defenders. Bill Belichick and the New England coaching squad always finds a way to have a great defense. It doesn't matter their personnel. It doesn't matter who's taking the season off for COVID, or who's injured or who left the team. There's all these moving pieces every year, but they always have such a great defense. And look where they are right now. They look like an amazing team. So we're about to get into the top four, the top half. Let's start off with the Green Bay Packers. I have a lot to say. Aaron Rodgers continues to play with a chip on his shoulder. They have dynamic running backs, especially Aaron Jones. They may need another big-time receiver outside of Devontae Adams. They have guys like Valdez-Scantling, good guys, good but not great guys, right? We look at them and we're like, they can have a good game. But can they consistently be amazing receivers? I don't think so. I don't think they have that guy yet. And I think they may have to sign him or make a trade for him. Is it this season? Maybe. We'll see who's available. But, I think that it would have done them a lot of good to maybe go after Stephon Diggs this offseason or something like that. And it's a solid but not incredible defense. We saw that against the Vikings. They gave up a lot of points against the Minnesota Vikings. They were a good team. Good but not great. We'll have to see how the defense continues to play. They have talent there, but it hasn't exactly translated into, preventing the team from scoring a lot of points. At number 3, I have my home team, the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And it hurts me. It hurts me to not put them number 1, trust me. If I was a homer, if I was the guy who is just going to advocate for my team, right? They're 2-0, so I have every excuse to put them at number 1, but I can't. I am somewhat, objective while doing this. I consider myself a journalist, so I have to be objective, and I just need to see a little bit more out of the team, right? I mean, a few injuries have killed the defensive back depth. Charvarius Ward, he was injured last week, and at some point during special teams, Antonio Hamilton was injured, so we're really just looking at guys like L'Jarius Sneed, and he's been good, trust me, he's been good, but it's not great, right? There are holes on this team, I think, and Juan Thornhill just hasn't looked good coming off of his injury, and I think he'll eventually make it back right. I have to cut him some slack. He just came off of a huge injury that he sustained last season, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and see where he goes from here, and I think he can have a really good season, but so far he hasn't shown me that. At number 2, I have the Seattle Seahawks. They're a great team with the frontrunner for MVP in Russell Wilson. They have the most underrated running back in Chris Carson. And they have an absolute elite defender in Jamal Adams, great DBs, just need a better D-line and pass rush. Let me go in depth a little bit, just a little bit, talking about what I mean by the last few sentences, the last few observations. I think that Chris Carson is the most underrated running back in the league, because I think he's a top 10 running back, and I don't think people say that enough. I think he's on the level of guys like Alvin Kamara, right? Maybe I'm a little bit, going over the line just a tiny bit, but I really do think he's just that good. And they let him run. They let him cook too in week 1, and he did it great. So I trust him. And I think that Jamal Adams is their best defensive player. I watched him for many years on these struggling Jets teams, and I just knew this guy was special. And he's proved it, being with a good, playoff team, and it's finally great to see him have some team success. And they're actually using him for pass rush. They're blitzing him, which, for his safety, you don't get called upon a lot to do that, which I like that he's blitzing sometimes. But they shouldn't be relying on that for pass rush, which they kind of have. And, if they could just get a little bit more pressure, I think that they could be the number 1 team. But the number 1 team, we've already discussed them, the Baltimore Ravens. So I talked about it earlier, but they're a complete team with no significant holes. They're playing like they're in mid-season form. They can win in so many different ways, and they'll be tested on Monday against the Chiefs. I think they can beat you in a gunfight, right? They can beat you. If the score is 40-34, they can beat you, and if the score is 14-10, they can beat you, right? You know, they can win in a grinded out game because their defense is so good, and they can win in a gunfight because they have so many weapons and they have such a great offense. So that is my power rankings for the NFL going into week 3. Let's move on to the second question that Hunter gave, and that was for me to talk about my Super Bowl prediction. This will be a quick little thing. I'm going to gloss over it probably. It's just going to be a quick explanation. But my Super Bowl prediction is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Seattle Seahawks, right? And I may be biased in saying this, but I think the Chiefs will eventually get into their next gear. They haven't been there yet. We know this isn't the best the Chiefs can look, and they really kicked it into the next gear last year in about week 11. Their defense really stepped up, and I think that they'll have a similar thing to do this year. And we'll just see. But I think the Seattle Seahawks have looked too good to be eliminated in the playoffs right now. So I have to predict those two. That's my Super Bowl prediction for this year. And the last question is about the 49ers and how their injuries will impact them. And I believe the 49ers will perform well under Nick Mullins, but not having Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas for the year will keep them from making another deep run. So we know Jimmy Garoppolo is going to come back in a few weeks. And they have one of the best, if not the best, backup quarterback in the league in Nick Mullins. And I think they're going to perform well under him. And Raheem Mostert will be back, right? When you think about it, you're like, wow, this team is pretty good. But they don't have that same scary defensive line anymore. They don't have Solomon Thomas or Nick Bosa, who were huge pieces on their defense. And their defense was kind of the main reason they were in the Super Bowl last year, and the reason they were even up on the Chiefs 20-10 in that same Super Bowl. So I think that's going to prevent them from making a deep run, considering they're both out for the year. And I'm kind of low on the 49ers right now, so it sucks, but I think they'll be stuck in a Super Bowl hangover with all these injuries.